companies coming over, so everyone act normal. All this and more coming up on This Week in Retro.
High-resolution color graphics.
This land of high technology.
The revolution in technology that made the information age possible.
Those kids are not afraid of computers.
Microsoft open sources a classic. 6502 Basic is now free.
It's a Commodore Datasette, but is it far away? No, it's just small.
And Christopher Drum is someone you should know.
And a new Xbox 360 soft mod, along with handheld Outrun news, coming up on this week's show for the week of Saturday, the 13th of September, 2025.
Up-to-date news for out-of-date tech.
This is the furthest we've ever got.
We're alive. We're still alive. Hello, everybody. We're still alive, and we're so happy to be here. I'm Jason. That's Dave over there. Dave, why don't you introduce our guests, please?
So we have guests again. It's been a while, but here we are. Chris is cooking his burra or tying his kangaroo down or something.
Counting kookaburras, I say.
Counting kookaburras, okay. So we're joined today by two friends who run a channel together, Taylor and Amy. Identify yourself, Taylor.
I'm Taylor.
And Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy. I have laryngitis.
We're from the Taylor and Amy Show.
Keep that with the
Props and merch and everything. Look at that.
It took them 37 years to get around to creating a YouTube channel, but they've done it now. I think you did it in 2021. You're coming up for 4 years.
Gosh, is that true?
Oh, I'm so old.
Wow.
In November.
Yeah, it was.
That is true.
It was somewhat of a COVID thing.
Yeah.
A little bit, so.
Well, they do a variety of things. They repair things, they talk, but it's all centered around the fact they've been friends forever.
Whatever.
So, hey, Amy. Hey, Taylor. Welcome to This Week in Retro.
Hey, Dave.
And in addition to all that, you've got an EP that's out now as well with the Stop Bits.
Our band.
Thanks for asking.
Our band is the Stop Bits. And this week in Retro, we released our first album. It's a 5-song EP called Return from Interrupt, available on Bandcamp.
And that's made up of you two plus 2 other YouTube-type retro hosts, right?
Yes,
Correct.
indeed. Sean with Action Retro and Veronica of Veronica Explains, who are fabulous people.
More news to come on that, I'm sure. Dave, we're just going to keep this train rolling before
Before it crashes.
Before we have more
before
problems.
anything else comes up. All right.
Derail.
Let's get straight into it.
So we call them trailblazers for a reason. They're the people who do the astoundingly difficult work of carving out a path to create a thing or sell a product or fill a void that 99.99% of other people wouldn't even consider a void that needed to be filled or could be filled. And very often, those types are not around for the later stages of a market. Sometimes the entrepreneurial push that makes for a great startup doesn't make for a great mature operational mind. And it's very common for the industry that the Trailblazer helped open up to shift so rapidly that it's almost impossible to keep up with all the changes from inside. You almost need the outsider sense of detachment and distance in order to come in and get to the next stages. But those trailblazers do clear the path, and they identify the goal, and they make it seem not so far off or so impossible to reach. They allow so many more to follow and walk where the trailblazer could only crawl, step by difficult to clear step. And if we rank the significance of those early exit trailblazers by the size and impact of those who directly followed them on the trail, it would be tough to rank anybody ahead of Microinstrumentation and Telemetry Systems, or MITS. MITS started life as a maker of calculators and specialized telemetry equipment for model rocketry until 1974, when the flagging company decided to do something wild. They would create and market a computer, at first just a computer kit that you had to assemble yourself, the Altair 8800, based around Intel's 8080 processor. Amy, Dave, Taylor, any of you ever get your proverbial mitts, if you'll permit the pun, on an early Altair?
No.
No.
Oh,
But we did build an inside replica.
Right.
Sweet.
So we do
that's
have,
impressive.
but not we don't have
And we also do some model rocketry. There's one video on our channel of us doing model rockets, and I am a level 2 high power rocketry certified individual. So I'm loving this story.
Yeah.
Do you have the telemetry type stuff that MITS was making, just the 21st century equivalent?
I have some newer stuff. That's one of my
What
rockets.
size of that?
That's the small one. That's the small one.
For listeners, Amy is holding a massive rocket.
No, it's only a 4-foot one. I have a 7-foot one.
4 foot is a massive rocket,
Okay,
Taylor.
okay, I'm just saying.
Right.
Whoa. Good time.
Told you, props and chaotic good. What's next?
Yeah. Home built Wednesday 8080. Dave?
Well, no, I've never launched a rocket or had an Altair. Weirdly enough, though, anytime I think about the Altair, it's the Star Trek Menagerie episode where you've got Captain Pike in the chair communicating with a single red LED.
Okay.
And that makes me think of an Altair because that's how it communicated with red LEDs.
Right.
And it turns out that might have even been kind of their intention because they named the Altair based on the Star Trek episode they were watching at the time because the ship was heading to Altair 6. So there you go. It all loops in.
Love that.
100%.
That is awesome.
So that original Altair had a few issues and a boatload of limitations, but what it had going for it was that it basically worked. And that made it the first viable personal computer design out there, as viable is defined in the mid-70s terms for people who felt comfortable personally soldering up their own computers and then programming them in raw bytecode that's personally flicked into switches on a front panel. But I mean, that was a market that had some money and some life to it. And so for a brief moment in time, the unlikely spot of Albuquerque, New Mexico became the literal center of the personal computing universe. So people figured out quickly that the best way to stay on top of the fast evolving market was to become next door neighbors with MITS down in Albuquerque. And that's exactly what Paul Allen and Bill Gates did. They set up shop as Microsoft and developed Microsoft BASIC initially for that Intel 8080 processor. Now, Gates and Allen did not invent the BASIC programming language that happened 10 years earlier at Dartmouth College. And it was never a given, absolute given, that a personal computer was going to need BASIC. But at the same time, BASIC had a lot going for it. It was very human readable. It didn't have oppressive structure like, say, COBOL. And it could be made to fit in a fairly small space of memory and storage, which is very, very important when it's 1974 and anything you could possibly afford to do is likely to have, at best, a single-digit number of kilobytes of RAM. And frankly, Gates and Company proved to be very good at building microcomputer basics that worked really well, fit on a variety of constrained machines. So, especially after their business relationship with MITS went sour, Microsoft aggressively ported its BASIC to other CPUs, notably the 6502 series. And that code base that's dated between 1976 through 1978, which can be compiled for the Commodore PET, Apple II, KIM-1, and Ohio Scientific Computers, has finally been released as an open source code base by Microsoft itself. And thank you to Grant Me Strength for being the first to mention it on the subreddit. And there it is. Taylor, Amy, what do you have over there?
We
A
have
KIM-1.
KIM-1. Amazing. So was that your first BASIC that you used to a significant degree, the KIM-1 BASIC on the hardcore thing itself?
You're not that old.
How bad is this lighting in here? That was sent to us by Bill Hurd.
It was. Commodore history, when Commodore was offering, I can't remember if it was 50 or $100 off a Commodore 64 if you turned in an old computer.
Yeah.
Well, Bill Hurd was among the people that were collecting all those old computers that got sent into them. And somebody sent in that KIM-1 to get money off the C64, and he kept it. And then a few years ago, he sent it to us.
Interesting. Yeah, people have always wondered what happened to that pile of,
Right. I think they used
Sinclairs and KIM-1s.
right. The ZX Spectrums were all doorstops, but
yeah, interesting. So, Dave, what was the first BASIC that you used to any significant degree?
It would be CPC BASIC or Locomotive BASIC on the Amstrad CPC.
What about you two, Amy, Taylor? What was the first BASIC that you really sat down and hacked
Apple
to any degree?
II.
Yeah, because of our computer
Apple
lab.
II. The computer lab in our school had a room full of them, and they would all boot to BASIC.
Boot to BASIC.
Which is one of the songs on our album.
Yeah, it turns out.
Yes,
we've learned over the years that as Taylor, Amy, and I are all of an age, we have like these like parallel tracks of nerdism that go through our youth. So like certain like academic projects that were nationwide. It's like, oh yeah, we did that exact same thing. Oh, that's how you guys did that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, not surprising you'd have the same sort of computer lab. So yeah, reporting by Simon Sharwood in the Register supplies a lot of helpful context about Microsoft's move, including a reminder that Microsoft's gone into their archives like this once before. They open sourced GW Basic back in 2020. GW Basic was essentially Microsoft's spin on IBM's Basic A, which was in turn building on things that were established in 1970s versions of Microsoft Basic. And MS has done things like release old versions of MS-DOS as open source, as well as a lot of their contemporary projects like Visual Studio Code. Now, you can no longer cosplay being a Microsoft employee in Albuquerque, sadly. Microsoft has made this GitHub repository a read-only archive, but you can fork it and fiddle it to your heart's content. There's a very permissive MIT license on the open source code, so it's entirely possible and even legitimate now to go in, fix a couple lingering bugs if you want, do some new ports, or cause whatever other mayhem with the code you like. Or you can go in and just customize the Easter egg message or the trigger code if you want.
What's the Easter egg then?
So there's a couple. One is Microsoft with an exclamation point. That was invoked. You can still find that in some versions of Pet Basic. The story goes that they thought that someday, old Shifty Jack might try to, wriggle out of saying that Microsoft had anything to do with it. So there's a code that triggers that. There's also another one embedded in there that has Bill Gates and one of the other authors' names in there.
Oh, clever.
Yeah, the version that's out there on GitHub, it's the version of BASIC that Microsoft internally calls version 1.1, but we out here probably best know it as being the Commodore BASIC V2. That's what Commodore used on many computers as it could, most notably both the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64, because, going back to the PET, they had paid for a one-time all-you-can-eat license on it, and they didn't feel like paying again. Commodore did eventually relent on later machines like the Commodore 128, which, in order to get a nicer and newer BASIC, they went back and paid again. That one even has a Microsoft copyrighted boot, something that Commodore had avoided up to that point. So, yes, there are better BASICs than this one in the world, both from other companies that were putting out machines back in the 80s, as well as Microsoft itself. But the early success of this Microsoft BASIC did help solidify the idea that not only that BASIC would be kind of the default programming language for any computer that you tended to get, but also kind of the default operating system front end for virtually every 8-bit home computer. And yes, we do hear you out there, you three Jupiter Ace diehards. You are not forgotten, but almost everything else had some connection to BASIC pretty early on. The post that announced the open source release has a considerable amount of modern context. In other words, like, this was not just some intern at Microsoft that shoveled this out there. They put some work into writing this up. It even includes a nod to the upcoming Commodore 64 Ultimate. And it also does credit contemporary programmer Michael Steele with having done a great deal of his own independent Microsoft BASIC scholarship, archaeology, and code preservation. He's got a number of articles on his pagetable.com site over the years that does his own archaeology, and he's made it rebuildable on a lot of different compilers rather. So anybody here want to talk about their preferred favorite BASIC of all time and why?
Do you have a favorite BASIC?
Taylor?
Yes, thank you. No, you just said that they've released it. It may not be the best BASIC out there, but my brain went, but it is. COG.
May not be, but is. I guess it's what you're used to, and that's kind of what
I'm very excited. I want somebody to do a big gray Nintendo cartridge that's basic.
We could do that.
It's got a 6502.
Yeah, it's probably
the best
not.
Part would be someone building the peripheral keyboard that would plug into the joystick slots.
Or just do it all with high score entry table type logic.
Somebody get on it.
I'm just saying.
Dave, was your first your best CPC BASIC, or do you have a soft spot for another one?
I can't put myself out there as being a BASIC expert or a programmer at all. I'm not. But if you grab me in the middle of the 90s and ask me about BASIC, you get what I understood at the time, which was wrong and not what I understand now. I thought BASIC. If you ever watch Star Wars, they speak BASIC in Star Wars. They all speak BASIC. That's the language. That's the intergalactic language. in Star Wars. It is BASIC. And I thought that's what BASIC was. I thought BASIC was the same in every machine, and that's why it was called BASIC, because if it was BASIC on a CPC, it was BASIC on a 64, on whatever else. And of course, that's wrong. There's lots of flavors of BASIC. BASIC is a kind of a style of a programming language. So I didn't know enough to really tell them apart. I couldn't tell you which is better than other. I know that different machines had different stuff going on. So I know that for example, producer Duncan has a very favorite BASIC command that he uses on the Amstrad CPC on this show. Whenever someone says a rude word like, I'll say one now, nobody will know what it said, because Duncan's beeped it out using a particular BASIC code. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, ladies. I'm sorry.
Clutching my pearls.
What's the pearls to clutch?
It was Locomotive BASIC. That's what the CPC one was, which was a competitor to Microsoft BASIC. And as usual for Alan Sugar, he chose the second place route because he was just like Jack Trammell. He wanted to get it cheap. Supposedly Locomotive BASIC was inspired by BBC Micro BASIC and also based on their own CP/M BASIC called Mallard BASIC. And I later used COMAL at school, not COBOL, but COMAL at school, which I think is kind of BASIC and Pascal mixed up a bit. And then I did use Turbo Pascal at university, but I was drunk, so I don't know what happened there. So I don't remember it at all, and I just not experienced it coding. And I'm sure if I sat down and you gave me a few days, it might come back to me a little bit. But it all seemed to be broadly the same thing along the same lines, those three languages that I used. And I don't think I don't know of a difference between BBC BASIC and CPC BASIC and C64 BASIC enough to tell you about them.
So Microsoft's code is extensively documented and commented. It's fun just to look through the explanations, the changelog, and yes, the occasional curse word, like to see what the development process felt like. All of the computer targets compile out of the same code base, which was clever of them. And it's a testament to the coding team of Rick Weiland, Bill Gates, and Monty Davidoff that we're interested in their BASIC at all, let alone the fact that as I sat down to prepare this story, there were already over 200 forks of the code base on GitHub. So let the upgraded BASIC ROMs flow, I say.
We are sponsored this week by Pixel Addict Magazine. Pixel Addict Magazine is a magazine that comes out every 6 weeks, which gives you lots of information about all technology. It's very much the same kind of things that we cover in this show. This month's magazine has a front cover showing the classic Casio watch, and it's been beautifully done in glowing vector style. It really is lovely. There's lots of other stuff in there. There's a Retcon 2025 show report. There is coverage of the latest game reviews, including Sonic GX on the Amstrad Plus. There are Pixel Addict's Sega Game Gear RPG top picks. If you like RPGs like me. Lots and lots there. And if you want to go and buy the magazine, where would you go, ladies? What's the URL?
Oh, God.
I didn't know there would be a test.
Pixel
Jason?
That'd be addict.media.
Thank you.
How would we know that?
How would you know? How would you know?
We get guessed that. Every time we get guessed that way.
Is it Pixel? What is it again? Addict.
Addict.media.
So
It's one of them fancy new domain names.
Okay, hang on. So when you go to addict.media, everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah. You can get it delivered through your letterbox or into your postal box if you live in the USA.
Mailbox.
Weird things. Mailbox. Yeah, mailbox. Or through your letterbox. You live in a proper country. And you can get it on a PDF. You get a PDF. You get a PDF as well. Thank you for sponsoring us, Pixel Addict Magazine.
Thank you.
I'll never know what you find when you open up your letterbox tomorrow.
Duncan, get that in somehow.
What did he
As long
say?
as we don't have to pay royalties on the lyrics.
Back in the depths of the 1980s in the United Kingdom, cassettes were all the rage. Vinyl records were what your dad used for music, and floppy disks were what businesses used. At home, for listening to music and, of course, sharing the music, we use cassette tapes. And in most of our micros, we also use cassette tapes. And I'm talking about...
Hang on. Most of your micros.
Our.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of our micros in the United Kingdom, we use cassette tapes. And I'm talking about the Philips design compact cassette. It's the tape that you're thinking of. It's this thing here that I'm holding up. That cassette there, which is, if you're interested, The Colour of Magic. Fantastic, difficult text adventure. And there's many other formats like it, but this one is the one that everyone used, officially designated as the IEC 60094.
Taylor.
Yes. Is that The Color of Magic, like the Terry Pratchett book about the wizards?
It is.
Yeah, exactly what it is.
As reviewed on a recent episode of The Retro Adventurers. There's synergy abounds.
Amazing. All right, so 8 thumbs up. Okay.
I don't know how you would say 60094. Should we know that, Jason? We're not listening.
Oh, we can table that one.
Yeah, you can fight the.
I actually, when you said that, I'm like, do you mean like how do you say IEC? Should we say Ike? But no, I get you.
No, Ike 60,094. On this show, we like to compare our experiences with our guests, and it's often said that in North America, people use disc drives, and in the UK, people use cassette tapes, almost like a rule. But for me, it was discs. At least I discovered I could save money by getting cassette tapes and put them onto disc. And I know that our guests today buck the trend because I've seen Taylor and Amy use a Commodore Datasette plenty of times on your show. Did you grow up with tapes?
Only the audio. And absolutely grew up listening to tapes. I still have a few. I've got Midnight Oil. I've got some REM, but no, I didn't get any computer software on tape until we started the channel.
Yeah, the channel was a great excuse to get things.
To buy all the stuff I wanted to buy anyway. Now I had an excuse. I'm doing it for the viewers.
Right,
Yeah.
We're
valuable research.
Yeah, like we didn't have ZX Spectrum or anything in that line.
Right. So
and now we've got lots.
I don't even know if Apple II had tapes, but I know the Commodore 64 definitely had the Datasette.
No, the early days of the Apple II were heavily cassette based just because the disc drives were so expensive. But yeah,
I've never seen it in Apple II.
Oh, there's plenty.
Cassette.
Yep.
Shows you what I know about American computers. There you go. But for me, it was always discs. But the reason why I'm talking about it today is because someone's done something cool. 42 Nobody 42 links us to a Tom's Hardware article about a video from BitLooney where he's made a replica of a Commodore Datasette. And the Commodore 1530, is that how you would say it?
I would say 1530, yeah.
The Commodore 1530, also known as the Commodore C2N. For those of you who are not watching, listening, it's the beige one that you're thinking of with the brown buttons and the label. It's the classic Commodore one, which I'm sure everyone's got one somewhere in the house. But rather than make the usual miniature floppy or datasette replacement that actually uses just flash or it uses an SD card, for example, it uses actual replaceable media. It's not flash-based. It uses actual cassette tapes, but not the ones that we know. It uses little ones called microcassettes. And if you have seen a microcassette, you'll have seen it in a dictaphone or an answering machine. When you're taking notes on those little machines you see, and you'll see it in cop shows and all the rest of it. They were an alternative to the Philips compact cassette. Again, that's the one we all know, the Philips compact cassette. And they came out less than 10 years after it. So it's all 60s technology. But as you might imagine, these tapes are smaller, so there is lower fidelity. And you had to do some adjustments to the data to get it working, all clever stuff, and all wonderfully explained in a really good video. I'm hardly the most technically minded person, but I got it, so it's definitely worth watching the journey on the video. So what do you think, folks? Are you compelled to head back to tapes, or are you done with that tech? Jason, time to be the bad guy.
Yeah, sure. I am so confused by this because, like you said, Dave, everybody agrees that microcassettes are electromagnetically inferior to the compact cassette. So did this guy just reinvent tape turbo or better, riskier encoding? Because he claims that he's getting more storage. And I don't understand how or why that would be unless he's, I don't know. I know this isn't going to resonate well with a certain segment of the audience, but beyond my professional obligations to This Week in Retro, I really don't have time or any enthusiasm at all for the tape experience recreation. Tape is a terrible format. We only ever used it out of desperate necessity. I do not personally want to replicate the tape loading experience ever on anything.
Pitchforks are available in the lobby.
Sure.
Yeah. You don't miss the eraser turning the...
Right, you get your pencil out to rewind it.
Or, I'm sorry, your rubber.
What do you? So you didn't have tapes for computers when you were kids, but you've got into it in the past kind of 4 or 5 years. So what did you make of it? Are they as bad as what you thought they were?
Well,
Yes.
I mean, with the disk drive, I'm not fiddling with volume to try to get it to work. So there were some definite hiccups. And there were a few times when it's like, okay, it's working, it's seeing it, and now it's loading. And then 10 minutes later, it's like error. And we're like, so it was fiddly. It was, and people were, we posted a video where we had done that, and people were in the comments like, oh, here's what you have to do. You have to adjust the volume down. Like it seemed like a lot of trouble compared to a disk drive.
Well, especially since we don't have that kind of like institutional knowledge of having done it when it was not retro.
Right.
So we're learning it now. So yeah, we're not very good at it, but it's fun to play with, but I don't think I want to use that as my new format going forward, no.
However, since we're in a band, recorded our first album, we have gotten some requests to do cassette tapes because retro, and also a vinyl pressing, which we're
we may do.
We'd be excited to do that. There aren't plans to do that currently, but we are aware that that's what the people want.
Yeah. All right. Smooth plug. High five. All right.
The problem that you have these days is you're not in a group of all your friends having the same problem, having the same things and talking to each other about what to do. On top of that, you're dealing with old equipment and old tapes. Back in the day, we had new tapes, new cassette players, and it worked better. And of course, in the UK, as you may have seen, Alan Sugar solved the problem by building a tape deck into the Amstrad and into the Spectrum Plus 2, so that it didn't have any difficulty. The tapes worked nearly all the time. They worked. I don't think they're as bad as what people say for me back in the day, but they're problematic now because of the age of the equipment. But back in the day, it was okay. I mean, I got my first computer I owned was a 6128. What's that called in America, Jason?
Yeah, well, but I guess we would call it the 6128. So
6128.
Yeah.
And it had a built-in 3-inch disk drive. But I went and bought a tape player because tape games were cheap.
That's what you do.
And I could put tape games on, save them to disk, and it was great. But most people in the UK had tapes, and it was fine. We got on with it, and it didn't take that long to load. As long as you knew it was going to load, you could go away for 5 minutes and come back. And you have to do that sometimes with modern games. Turn it on, go away 5 minutes, and come back for it to load because it's got to update a patch. So I don't think they were that bad.
I guess patch updates is the new wait for tape load.
Loading.
And yeah, to your point about not having to mess with it if it's integrated. Yeah, the Commodore 1530 because Commodore made you buy. Well, they tried to make you buy their own player that didn't have a volume adjustment. There were people that would go in and fiddle with the mechanism and stuff like that. So yeah, there were some that skipped the step of having to mess with volume and gain and stuff like that. But even then, I'm gonna say no. And there is a lot of fixation on recreating the external devices that from Flash are trying to replicate loading in from tape, and that just I don't understand.
He's like, it's no for me.
It's a no for me. Yeah.
I remember a little line in Tipex across the volume dial just to make sure it didn't move from the sweet spot that worked. But once I got that, they all worked. Anyway, this is, as you might have guessed, a one-off project. You can't buy it. You would find it extremely difficult to make it. The guy spent so much time in it. Although, of course, you could try doing it yourself. There's a challenge for you.
Housekeeping time with Dave is here. Have no fear, he'll keep things clear. It's housekeeping time with Dave.
On to housekeeping. I'd like to welcome our newest patron, so thank you very much, Brian, for signing up. Welcome to being an official twirler. If people want to become a twirler, Jason, where would they go?
they would go to patreon.com/thisweekinretro. Dave and I were talking about this a little bit before the show. At a base support price of $3.50 US per month, there are 3 bald gentlemen and 1 guy with hair. We produce on average, 4.25 episodes or so per month. So if you divide the $3.50 by 4, by 4.1, it's practically free to support us. So please do consider heading over and supporting us for practically nothing.
That message sponsored by Jack Trammell.
Way to go, Brian. Welcome. Thank you, Brian.
The second top story this week for News and Briefs, the second top story is a video from Clint at LGR. He's talking about himself, which is unusual for him to do on his main channel, but it's been submitted with the title LGR Hero Worships Twerp Presenters by Making Himself Bald. So, hello Clint. I know you usually watch, and I think everyone's been making that joke about your new smooth, shiny look. So thanks, Galdier, for submitting that. He also says he's going to VCF Midwest. Anyone else going?
I think we're going to go.
So we're in a band.
And we're going to be...
And the Stop It
and the Stop It's to be playing...
are playing at VCF Midwest. So...
if people like you, could they buy your music?
Well, yes, on Bandcamp. They can do that now because the album came out this week, and that will certainly also be true at VCF, that you can...
Link in the show notes.
Yeah. As this episode is dropping, Taylor, Amy, and I are at VCF Midwest, possibly not in bed yet, possibly sleeping up for the day to come.
Are you?
What happened?
That's straightforward.
Jason, this took a turn.
Are we all
in bed together?
Sorry, nobody told you? Sorry.
I didn't know that there was some sort of fee for being interviewed.
Well, it's funny. That's funny because I was just going to say, obviously we don't make guests, go the full tour experience if they want to be it. But yes, no, I meant individually, of course, not all
one
together.
at a time.
Yeah.
Just one at a time.
Duncan, can't top that. Let's just move on.
My mother's going to watch this.
No. If you'd like to see Jason,
yeah,
and you'd like to see Taylor and Amy, and you would like to see Clint, I believe you're all together doing a panel.
That's true too. Yeah, well, a mere few hours after this drops, yes, we'll be doing a panel. I think it starts 1:30 p.m. Central Time at the event on Saturday.
I trust you. Remind me so I could show up.
Yeah, good to know.
Yeah, we'll buddy system it. Yeah, it's 1:30. So yeah, we'll be there, and then Stop Bits will be playing a late night set on Saturday night. So
yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's gonna be so much fun.
The making of Jeff Crammon's Formula One Grand Prix series was linked from Time Extension by Dr. Local.
Yeah, I loved his stuff. He's a wizard. The Sentinel is a really amazingly overlooked game. I don't know how famous Jeff Crammond is across the pond. Did he play his games? A stunt car racer?
I don't know if Stunt Car Racer was ever officially released here, but I definitely had a pirate copy and it was fun.
So good. 20 years later, we're now told there's a soft mod for the Xbox 360. Jonic links us to Mr. Mario 2011 on YouTube. It's a neat thing, I think, because my friend Mean Machine Dean has got an amazing Xbox with everything on it. It's had everything done to it. It's perfect. It's this little time capsule that plays every Xbox game. It's all installed in it. It's brilliant. And it was supposedly going to be impossible to have a proper soft mod on the Xbox 360. And this one is a proper soft mod, and it sticks between boots. So once you've done it, that's it. And of course, I don't think Microsoft are likely to be patching that.
And the Amstrad, is this 8256? We'll call it the 8256. The Amstrad 8256 turns 40 years old in September of this year. The humble but powerful PCW was a mainstay of cheap office word processing and other productivity software in the 80s and into the 90s. Also on the Retro Adventures, we've talked about whether or not it's a suitable text adventuring platform. It's a subject, and productivity software is something I'm about to talk more about in just a little bit. So thank you to Malcolm 851 for that, or 851, however you like.
Various Hunt 9110 links a video and calls it one of the best videos on the emotion behind retro gaming he's ever watched. The video is called The Last Offline Generation, remembering when gaming was simple and fun. And I'm sure I haven't watched it. I'm sure it's going to be talking about something that comes up quite a lot on here, the difference between that line in the sand where modern gaming and gaming that you can hold in your hand exists.
And although Chris is not here this week, it is still This Week in Retro. There is still mandatory Outrun news, so here it comes. Outrun GB for the Game Boy has been released. It's for the Game Boy Color. It looks pretty good. Thank you to Brassic Gamer. Yeah, Taylor, Amy, it's like required to love racing games to be on this show. I didn't. Okay. I sort of knew that before I joined. Now it's been made very clear. Okay, so I have to pretend. I have to pretend that I care a lot about racing games, or they hurt me.
Hold, please.
And Ultima.
Okay.
I felt like that was a little more obvious. Like that was above the surface. The racing game stuff was more insidious.
My favorite racing game.
Odyssey 2. What is that?
Well, it has Speedway, Spin Out, and Crypto Logic on it, and Spin Out is the racing game.
Perfect.
Pole position's mine. So simple, so good.
No.
If you want to submit an article to our subreddit, it is reddit.com/r/thisweekinretro.
So even before I joined the roster here at This Week in Retro and up-to-date news for out-of-date tech became a daily responsibility, I still saw quite a lot of retro news go by my screens. And certain names catch your eye, especially when they routinely announce projects that speak to your particular niche retro interests, and they have an interesting and memorable name. So, on the occasion this week of him launching a new blog called Stone Tools, dedicated to the productivity software side of classic computers, I thought it was high time to put the spotlight on Christopher Drum, who's just your average Generation X super geek born and raised in the American Mid-South and now living in Tokyo, Japan. So since Stone Tools is a new blog, there are only a couple of posts at the moment. Christopher uses the first to introduce himself, his early days in rural Tennessee when his family became the only ones he knew with a personal computer. I know, it lines up perfectly. Our guests here also from the American Mid-South, we'll get into that in a minute. In this case, Christopher had an OG Tandy TRS-80 Model 1 with the fancy external expansion cage, and he name-checked some of the games you'd expect to find a young man of that era put to, as he puts it, have CRT burn in on the brain over an unlicensed character-based Star Wars, Zork 1, Pirate Adventure. But since this is a productivity blog, he's quick to point out that this is not the start of a gamer journey, that it was in fact a series of productivity programs, including a recipe cost calculator and everybody's favorite pseudoscience meets horoscope 1970s pastime, a biorhythm charter that he says helped really court the chart of the rest of his life. So, fellow Generation X Mid-South representatives from computing, or Dave, did you three spend as much time with biorhythms at a formative young age as Christopher and I did? Because I got to admit, I also spent way too much time with them.
None.
Never heard of it.
Completely bypassed it.
No, but our friend Veronica from Veronica Explains has talked to me at length about that.
She's in our band.
I was going to say, isn't she also in a band?
Yeah.
She's in the band that we're in. And she is one, but she would love to talk to you at VCF Midwest about that.
About biorhythms.
Yeah.
Can we plant someone in the crowd to ask that question on the panel?
I mean, probably. Yes, you, dear viewer, you can plant yourself at 1:30 p.m.
Yes, please.
I had to Google what biorhythms were. I'd heard the one. I assumed it was a collective medical term for various measurements like blood pressure and pulse, etc. I thought, here's your biorhythms here. But it's not. It's well, let's say it's still waiting empirical evidence of its efficacy. I did wonder if it's a phenomenon or fad that didn't make it across the Atlantic to the UK, but a little bit of research that says, no, Dave, you're just ignorant. I wonder if it's the kind of thing that my parents wouldn't let me go near because they just don't like any kind of pseudoscience and so on. So I think little me would not have been allowed near that kind of horoscope nonsense.
Interesting. Yeah.
Not nonsense, horoscope thing that's yet to be proven.
Yeah. Nice save.
Yeah, like there were public domain biorhythm charters in a lot of places. It was on a disc that came like with my computer home from the store, and I was like, so I'm going to learn more about this, and got some books on the subject. So yeah, interesting that because Christopher and I we were deeply steeped in this. Before I go on, any Mid-South representation of the computing experience you two want to elaborate on? You're not neighbors with Chris, are you? Or former neighbors?
What's the question?
Oh, anything Mid-South computing in our time. But
Well, now we're from the deep south. We just currently live in the
Oh, you've shifted.
I don't know the
latitude.
difference.
It's a state line.
So
Yeah.
we both grew up in Alabama,
Roll Tide.
and now are
That's
in
deep
Now
south.
we live in
Tennessee,
That's Mid-South.
South.
which is
Yeah.
the mid-south.
That's where Jack Daniels comes from. That's what I know.
Tennessee, yes, that Nashville.
That's correct.
And Alabama is where is it? The Alabama Chuggabug? Is that where that's from? What was it in Wacky Races?
Oh, I'm weak on my Wacky Races lore today.
Alabama reference in any video game
Oh, in a
No. Wacky Races the cartoon.
or cartoon.
Probably a video game as well. Anyway, that's all I know about the South of America.
Forrest Gump. Is Alabama.
Christopher Drum says that he's going to keep Stone Tools focused on the 1977 to 1995 period of what he calls non-entertainment software. And as he describes it, that lines up very nicely with the print run of Omni magazine. Or to look at it another way, it covers the span going from like the prepackaged home computer launch, the trinity of the Apple and PET and Tandy, right through the launch of Windows 95, which, as he puts it, quote, kind of homogenized the industry, unquote, and it's hard to argue with that. So the first full deep dive post he did was just published, and it covers Deluxe Paint, that most killer of killer apps originally for Amiga computers, which did eventually find its way over to DOS, Apple IIgs, and Atari ST. I would have failed a quiz, by the way, on what other 3 platforms was Deluxe Paint ported to. Yes, Dave?
It's traditional for me to try and bash the Amiga. So here's my attempt. You've got the Amiga with Deluxe Paint. The Atari ST had Hyper Draw. Now, Deluxe is nice, but Hyper. And if that wasn't enough, you'd Hyper Paint. Hyper, better than Deluxe. But I will say, it's just a clone of Deluxe Paint. Deluxe Paint's actually the good one. I can't really bash it.
So Drum's experience focuses on DPaint 3. That was the last version created by the original author, Dan Silva. And as he puts it, working with DPaint deeply influenced him to become an artist, study art in college, and continue exploring graphic design. And as he goes back to re-explore DPaint 3 through an Amiga emulator, he's tying his experiences against a range of modern paint packages and reflecting on just how far the discipline of computer art has shifted away from the way you would work in DPaint and towards the way people work in Adobe Photoshop interface concepts. It's very lovingly detailed, as you might expect. It's probably more information than anybody really requires, but it is thorough and well written. And he goes on and says that he's trying not to do the old man yelling at cloud thing about how the DPaint interface paradigm has been buried, but honestly, I think that is what he's doing, or at least what he's feeling. Anybody want to say like their kind of favorite, this is the way things ought to be, this is the interface style that I wish they hadn't destroyed on us?
Microsoft Paint.
MS Paint?
MS Paint?
Yeah, they did, Deluxeify it and 3Dify it.
Which is awful. I want the one that came with Windows 3.1.
Yeah, a nice simple one. If they want to put extra stuff on it, it's fine, as long as it's out the way and I don't have to use it. But don't make me use a terrible Photoshop knockoff. I would like to go back to email that didn't have anything special in it, that was just text. I'd like to go back to that. That worked really well.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
now you made me wistful for the Mutt email client. Yeah. I really like it.
What was the one I used? Forty Agent I used, and it was really nice and clean and simple and fast, and you got online and offline really fast. Anyway, I did want to mention Stu Cambridge, who is the guy that made our pixel portraits. He was a pixel artist back in the day. He's still a pixel artist now from Sensible Software. And when he did a talk in the cave, he explained he doesn't just use Photoshop for stuff. He uses modern software called Aspirite, I think it's called, or I don't know, Aspirite.
Let's go with Aspirite, yeah.
Yeah, which is, there's worse ways to say it, I'm sure, which is the kind of Deluxe Paint ethos carried forward. Of course, Photoshop has gone to vectors and masks and layers and all the rest of it. That's the old school way of doing it, but in a modern way.
Yeah,
that's the one that's left.
Yeah, Drum was talking about Aspirite, and I hadn't run into it, but good to know that that's what Stu uses. So interesting. So Christopher is not simply a writer/critic. He is also a doer, or as he calls himself, a software deconstructionist. He's done a lot of work with the Pico 8 platform, which, if you haven't encountered it, and anybody feel free to correct me on this if there's a better way to describe it, but is a virtual platform description meant to simulate a constrained hardware device. It has throwback specs like an 128 pixel wide screen, and you can run a Pico 8 simulator on a number of computers and mobile devices. Anybody want to add anything to that?
You're entirely correct.
Okay.
Keep doing that. Mm-hmm.
And his projects for Pico 8 include a full-featured re-implementation of the classic VisiCalc spreadsheet. And he also implemented it for Windows, Mac, Linux, and Raspberry Pi because, sure, why not? In it to win it. On his itch.io page, you'll also find his ground-up rebuild of the game that put Ken and Roberta Williams on the map, Mystery House, the text adventure with the then groundbreaking wireframe graphics. He has also implemented Eliza, the original AI chatbot for Pico 8, as well as a regular Infocom interpreter. And he has ported Zork to work with the Cosmopolitan library, which is this wild voodoo way to run a single binary on lots of different modern computers. It's kind of a form of magic. Any one of these projects that he did would be noteworthy, putting them all together, and that's why I say Christopher Drum is someone worth knowing. Do you three have any favorite minds in retro that you think don't get enough notice in this modern age?
L. Curtis Boyle.
Oh,
That's a good call.
hello, L. Curtis. But sometimes he listens. Hello, if you're listening.
Well, he's a fantastic guy, and I like his work. He's one of the showrunners
The Coco.
of Coco Nation, and he works so hard. He's very
very dedicated. But also,
persistent.
when we first started the channel and had 200 subscribers, and they were all our mom. They found us.
He discovered us
and interviewed us and we went over 256 subscribers when they put the show out that had us on there, and we've just had a soft spot for that whole group.
Friends ever since,
and hang out at the we even went to Coco Fest a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And they were very kind to us, and we thought very hard about whether, as two women, females on the internet, we really have to think hard about who we're going to interact with. And they were just so kind, and I don't know that we would have carried on and gone forward after that, except for how wonderful that whole group of people were, and mostly guys. So shout out to that whole crew, because they're just really nice guys.
Yeah, everyone has good things to say about L. Curtis Boyle. He's a nice chap. Sometimes he'll message me with information on stuff, and he never does it in a way of, actually, I think you'll find. He doesn't do that at all.
Never get that.
He's really nice guy.
And we'll bring you chocolate from Canada if he has the opportunity.
Yeah, he's Canadian, which probably explains why he's such a nice guy. Everyone Canadian's nice.
Probably so, honestly. No Americans disagree.
I picked three. I thought up to the first three that would come to mind, because there's loads of people that I just don't understand why they don't get more attention. Obviously, apart from Taylor and Amy, who deserve many more viewers. I thought I'd pick What Ho Snorkers. Now, What Ho Snorkers does a brilliant Spectrum show where he takes ZX Spectrum games, or if you're in America, ZX Spectrum games, and usually type in games. And he does this, he'll dress up as the characters in them. He has a bit of fun, and then he calls it snorkifying them. He improves them. He fixes them. And it's just such a treat when he does one of these videos. The next one is Yesterzine. And Dudley from Yesterzine has this brilliant concept where it's to take an old magazine and go through it. Now, you'll find people going through old magazines online, but the way he does it, he does so much research into it, and it's just amazing just to pick the magazine apart. And the last one is Timberwolf K. He tends to review games, but he does what I like about game reviews on YouTube. He goes really deep, really far into it. You might mistake his thumbnails for the usual slop we get from people saying, did you know this? And they've picked a fact from Wikipedia and stuck it into an AI prompt to rattle out something really kind of lazy. But he doesn't do that. He really goes into it. And one of the reasons that I'm into retro, I think, it is unfinished business. So I feel as if I've got unfinished business with these old games and so on. And when I watch one of his videos, the latest I watched was on Frontier First Encounters, which was Elite 3, if you like, which is a really, really buggy game. And he looked at how buggy actually was it, and he really got to the bottom of it. And it wasn't just a case of the usual Linus Tech Tips. That's enough. That was interesting enough. Stop the video halfway through. He goes right through it. So that's 3 I thought of. There are loads more, and apologies if I haven't mentioned someone, but yeah, those 3 are fantastic channels. I'll put the link in the show notes.
Christopher's mission statement on the blog is a rallying cry for all of us who continue to use an out-of-date or oddball piece of tech, even though its modern replacement is objectively better, faster, and cheaper. As he puts it, stone tools still cut meat.
So, on to question of the week. And last week we asked you if you can have an arcade machine play your personal theme song when you put in your coin, what would it be? Taylor and Amy, would you like to try and answer that?
Yes, but could I get a clarification?
No.
Clarification. No. Oh, sorry.
It's whatever you think it is.
What does it modify? The song or the machine?
So, what does it modify? Yes. What would your personal theme song be? Like, you put in your coin and then the Taylor hype song plays, whatever that is.
Hoopa!
Oh.
Walk right into that.
Yeah, sorry.
It's been 2 minutes that we hadn't mentioned the band.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that L. Curtis Boyle is directly responsible for you being in a band.
Indirectly.
Yeah, see?
We're trying not to lay it on too thick.
I don't know. It also might be for us the theme to Laverne and Shirley, because we get that compared.
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah.
But the machine would be Miss Pac-Man.
Okay. So put in a quote from Miss Pac-Man, get Laverne and Shirley theme out.
Shirley, so say we all.
Yeah, you yeah.
Copyright strike coming.
Probably not. I have laryngitis.
Yeah.
No, you won't. Top answer this week is from Pajako6502, and he says, easily Pearl and Dean Asteroid. He says, if you've been to the cinema in the last 50 years in the UK, you've probably heard this one, which is the kind of the that one, which you can click on and read it and hear yourself if you'd like. And Indigo Prime says he's had that as his ringtone for years.
Oh, that's cute.
Yep. Various Hunt 9110 said, mine would have to be either Invaders Must Die by The Prodigy, because that's my party anthem, and it's awesome, and all gamers know that invaders must indeed die, or Fat Planet by Left Field, because I wait, that's what I do. Tick follows tick follows tick follows talk. Oh yeah, I also like Guinness.
Magic courage.
Okay.
Stuff going on in here.
Amy, can you look down at your screen and read the next one down?
I can. Let's see. So this is Fatter Agnes 8375. See if you can even understand my wonderful voice. Apogea. In fact, any of the tunes from that game being Apogea, is that right?
I think that's the one where you're the bee or the wasp with the Amiga.
Oh, okay. Man, I immediately think of Yara's Revenge. Or Wipeout 2097 on the PS1. Wipeout Fusion PS2. Absolute bangers throughout those games.
And Taylor.
Yes.
That's a very short one.
From It's Methroid. No, It's Me Thyroid.
It's Me Thyroid.
Yes! That's the way that...
I thought it was meth at first and had to stumble.
Sorry, we're from Tennessee.
My Pal Foot by the Shags. I know what each one of those words means individually.
Perhaps
and you know where to find the thyroid.
Yes, we very much do.
By the way, Dave, as we're running out of time, did you want to ask about your shoulder?
No, I just know that anyone who's anything in medicine, who's a nurse or a doctor or anything, the one thing that they hate is, oh, I meant to ask you, I've got this sore shoulder. Can you... No.
Be like, we'll send you to an orthopedic surgeon.
It's a rotator cuff thing. It's fine. I just need to do my exercises and I'll be fine.
I can tell you.
Even better. Send him to physical therapy. Yeah, that gets him right off the books.
Physical therapy, and I can tell you the 4 muscles of the rotator cuff later on.
This week's question of the week. Jason.
Yeah. What retro trailblazer do you think deserves more respect in the spirit of mentioning Mitz and L. Curtis Boyle and people like that before? Who out there blazed those trails that you think deserves a little more remembrance than they get today? And that'll be in the community question of the week. That's always pinned to the top of our subreddit, reddit.com/r/thisweekinretro.
That's it. So thank you so much for joining us on this show. If people want to enjoy more of you, if people think, I want to listen to these people again, where should they go?
So
YouTube.
You might go to YouTube to the Taylor and Amy Show. We're the ones that are on the TaylorandAmyShow.com.
Right, that's us.
And if you'd like,
it's not .com.
Oh, I'm sorry, whatever.
That's not
YouTube. Don't listen to me. And then we also are in a band. So there's the Stop Bits, which we have YouTube, and the Stop Bits .net.
So those two places.
We'll need to have Sean on one day. Thank you very much for joining us, though. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Hope you had fun. And we will see you next week.
Yes, well,
thank you.
Come to VCF Midwest.
All right. Taylor's waving, or had been waving. Dave's waving, and Amy's waving.
And Jason's waving. Bye.
Everybody's doing the thing. Bye, everybody.
This Week in Retro was written and presented by Chris from 005 AGIMA, Jason from the Retro Adventurers, and Dave. It was edited by me, Duncan Styles. The podcast version of the show is available through your favourite podcast app, including Apple Podcast and Spotify. And the video version is available on the This Week in Retro YouTube channel.
Join our community subreddit at r/thisweekinretro to suggest and vote on the stories we cover on the show. Please give us a like and subscribe to help us reach new viewers.
If you enjoy our show and would like to support it, then please check out the link to our Patreon page in the show notes or description. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time for more up-to-date news for out-of-date tech.